Well, speaking of, we actually have really minimal but existing show notes for a change again.
Right, I saw that.
So I had a question. I was going to follow up on how you felt with the medication and
So
everything. Anyway, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, has your experience been, for the most part, positive, other than the recent stomach issues, or have you seen some
yeah,
other
so
things that have also made you question, side effects or symptoms or anything?
nothing that made me question side effects. And when I was talking to some folks, they were like, I don't know when the side effects will. So first of all, I don't even know that this is a side effect of the medicine. I could have picked up something possible. I'm not sure.
And just to add that we know a lot of stuff is going around at the moment in our general region too. So
yes,
that would not at all be a surprise if you picked up some sort of minor
yeah.
bug.
And I was also traveling last week. So last week, even last week, I was afraid I was getting COVID last week actually. So Tuesday I flew to Las Vegas, and I was fine. Tuesday night I didn't sleep well. I was tired. Wednesday I seemed fine most of the day, and then Wednesday evening when I was having dinner, I was just like I couldn't eat all my food, which is relatively new for me. But also this, and I'll add more to this. That I'm starting to see like the positive things that I've been wanted to see from this drug. But I couldn't eat all my food, and which is not a big deal, but I was feeling really like I was just like so tired, and I was just ready to go to bed, So I went to bed. I think I slept 9 hours. I went to bed like at 9 o'clock that night, and I slept 9 hours, and because I had a afternoon flight, and woke up, felt kind of not great, but I didn't feel as bad as I did the night before. And it's like the one time I didn't bring a COVID test with me. Like every time I've traveled since we've gotten, since COVID was a thing, I would take a COVID test with, a couple of COVID tests with me. And I forgot to bring one this time. Like I took it out of my bag and didn't put it back, forgot to put it back in, and didn't, left without it. So I was just like, okay, if nothing else, I need to take a COVID test, to make sure I don't get COVID, that kind of logic. And, but I had some Dayquil with me, and I took a couple of Dayquil in the morning. And by the time I was like, halfway back home or halfway back to Atlanta, I was like feeling totally fine. And when I landed, I felt I felt like I wasn't sick at all, and I felt fine for the rest of that was Thursday. I felt fine all day Friday and Saturday and Sunday until Sunday night, and I just had some. I experienced what you would experience when you have a colonoscopy. That when you take medicine for a colonoscopy, that's the feeling I was at. So it was like not great. It's different than other food poisoning I've had, but it's just I don't know.
I kind of hate to use the phrase, but it's more manageable is the way I would describe it.
So much more manageable.
Yeah.
It is a lot more.
Because with full-blown food poisoning, you just are miserable and just you're stuck around the toilet. At least with
yes.
what I'm understanding of what you're describing is a lot more. I need to be within the vicinity of home, but I'm okay.
Yeah, and it was one of those things where it's like I didn't get good sleep that night. Like I slept maybe a couple of hours, and because I kept having to get up, but I didn't have, wasn't having stomach cramps. I wasn't vomiting. I just, I kept having to, get up and go to the restroom. And again, that's far more manageable than other times I've had food poisoning. Because other times I've had food poisoning before, it's like, oh, you have these like terrible, you feel awful for, several hours. And then all of a sudden, it's over. But the thing that made me think maybe it's food poisoning is, I think around 7 a.m. Monday morning, I took a couple. I thought, oh, let me take a couple of what are they? Charcoal pills, activated charcoal in capsule form.
Yeah.
because if there's bacteria in your gut that's making you have problems, it will, it can help absorb the toxins that they create that make you sick. And so I thought maybe it's that. And so I started feeling kind of like I did Sunday night tonight after supper, and I'm like, oh no. And it made me that, kind of scared me. It's maybe it is a side effect of the drug. I can't be sure. But then also, um, noroviruses are really hard to clean.
Yeah.
They're hard to get rid of, and so you can reinfect yourself. So I don't know. I don't know. So, but otherwise, I'm having, even though I'm on the lowest dosage, I'm having positive results in that. I'm like, oh my God, this is probably how normal people live. Like I was like, I don't want to eat that food. I am not hungry. I don't feel like, I just, it was interesting. I noticed that like it takes me longer to eat my meals. It takes, I just, simply am not hungry enough to, eat any. And I'm just like, it's a weird feeling because I feel like I don't know, it feels like I had become something that I didn't want to be. And now I feel like I'm normal, becoming more normal, I suppose.
So this is an interesting kind of train of thought. I don't know how. I wasn't prepared for that description. So maybe I'll phrase a question in a way that makes sense, and it may be something that I have to kind of think about, and we'll just take offline at some point. But the way you phrased it, kind of the terminology struck a thought. Did you find yourself really focusing more on food as a constant source of snacking and comfort type thing? Is that what you are kind of describing, that you don't feel that way? Or is that not even a good representation of what you were meaning?
So definitely,
or maybe I can even rephrase it slightly more. Is it more a matter of you enjoyed food enough that you would just eat until the food was gone, and now it's more an idea of you're eating to feel satisfied whether the food's gone or not? Does that maybe encapsulate the idea better?
So I think that, like anyone else, I enjoy good food. I find it, I used to love to watch the Food Network. I learned a lot of, the actual learning and, sometimes the science background behind meal preparation I always found interesting. And there's a lot of things that go along where food is like, and eating meals, sharing meals with people is, that social aspect. I love that as well. But I think growing up, I think a number of habits were instilled in me what's the word I'm looking for? Inadvertently. Excuse me. Inadvertently, because of just my father's upbringing. He, and you grow up poor in America, that's one thing, but growing up poor in what we used to call a third world country, a developing country, that's a different kind of poor. Not to say that people in this country don't go hungry. There's a lot of people going hungry, and there's certainly nutrition issues in this country, but that affects a lot of people. Anyway, I remember when I was growing up, my dad would when like if we had a meal with chicken, he would crack the bone and suck the marrow out. And I remember my mom once saying something to the effect of like, there's a lot of nutrients in the marrow. And my dad said, yeah, but, we got in the habit of doing this to help get full. They were that hungry, hungry enough to like, trying to find as much food to eat to get full. And so as a child, I was not a picky eater. I was a skinny little kid. And I was not a picky eater, and I got a lot of encouragement when I would, eat food that the other kids weren't eating. And so I like that. And that, there was a positive feedback loop there where I just like, oh, I'm going to eat more because I get more praise and so on and so forth. And I just sort of had some unhealthy habits with, as I got older. You go through your teenage years and then you start to inhale, you eat everything. And, that's fine when you're, also burning as many calories as, kids that play sports do. But that's kind of where like this unhealthy appetite came from. And so I'd say now as an adult, it would just be, I could eat enough food quickly enough that I'm getting more calories in my body, way more calories in my body than I could possibly need before I actually feel full. And that's the problem. So, and it's, sort of created, your stomach expands to be able to accommodate what it is that you eat in a certain amount of time. So now what I'm feeling is a lack of, I'm having to rework, or I can tell that I'm working against my psyche now because I'm like, oh, I know that I'm not going to want to eat that much. And for example, the other night, the food that I thought that gave me I treated myself to a sandwich from Firehouse Subs because I had points for a free sandwich, and that's what I think got me sick. But it used to be that I always ate the large one, and I'd always go for the large, and that was, sometimes I was like, okay, that'll be enough food. But now I knew that I didn't need a large. I went with a medium, and so I don't know. I'm having to. So one, I know that I'm not eating as much. I'm not as hungry. I don't even have the desire to eat it, and I'm now not finishing what's on my plate. And I'm also, preparing my plate so that I don't eat as much, or I'm not, putting as much on my plate. So I'm still working through it, but I can tell that, my brain is saying, oh, you need this much food. And I'm like, oh, I'm actually not going to be that hungry. And it's been interesting to see that. And then when Thursday morning, when I was walking through the airport, I went and picked up a coffee and a sandwich from Starbucks. And I was just like, it took me a lot longer to drink and eat that coffee. And because I just was able to, I feel like I was able to be like a normal person and enjoy the meal instead of just, eat it all, as fast as possible or whatever. Not maybe as fast as possible, but quickly, I tend to eat faster than other folks.
Interesting. And the reason, so kind of why I was curious is because what you're describing is not at all how I like approach food and eat in general, which is why I wanted to hear kind of what the like past behavior was and what the thought of maybe it's kind of normal being, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's far off. Like there are a number of things that I could draw parallels to, but my mode of eating is more kind of small, random meals when I feel like it, is maybe the best way to think about it. If it's the weekend and I have time, I'll do a big brunch. I love a good hearty breakfast burrito, but I don't do that during the week because it just takes so much time. And so, like during the week, often I will skip breakfast. I'll just wait until lunchtime and have, probably something relatively small, and then I'll snack a little bit a couple of times after that, and then I generally do a fairly hearty dinner. And I know that that's actually scientifically not the best combination, but like it works for me. So yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, if you're burning, I was gonna say at the end of the day, if you're burning more calories than you're consuming, you're going to lose weight.
Right. The biggest thing that the research has typically shown is that a big meal at night tends to hinder other things like sleep and everything else more so than having your bigger meal earlier in the day and then kind of tapering off to a lighter meal at night. So there are supposedly other significant benefits that would also help. But There are enough negative habits that affect my sleep that the meal is not the one I need to worry about first.
Right.
Like,
Well, I was just gonna say the ideal setup is the Thanksgiving dinner where you eat at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon,
right.
and you have lots of tryptophan packed uh, proteins and all the carbohydrates, and you'll sleep. There's a reason people take a post Thanksgiving nap.
I do think what works in my favor, though, is for a long time, I've tended to avoid processed foods. I mean, I'll love a good, crackers and cheese kind of plate type thing occasionally too. But for the most part, I just don't snack on processed foods. It'll be jerky or an apple or just whatever, but I tend to go away from anything in a box or prepackaged. And so I think because of that, even though I have a number of bad habits from a dietary perspective, if you look at what everything tells us we should try to do, I think it's offset by how active I am in general outside of that, and just being blessed with a metabolism that adjusts a little bit as long as I kind of am active. And that hasn't disappeared completely yet, even though I should be at that point where I really need to worry about it going away. That I've found that kind of sweet spot where I can still pretty much eat how I want to eat. If I want to have processed foods or fast food or whatever, it's not going to kill me, because I don't eat it all the time. That I think at the moment, for the next couple of years, I probably will be okay. And I'm pretty sure as I get closer and closer to 50, and then as I get past that point, I'm going to have to adjust how I eat a little bit again. Like I did, after I hit 30. Because prior to 30, I ate the hell out of some processed food, and fast food. And so I kind of feel like my experience has been that my tastes have changed as they've needed to as I've aged. And then within the past couple of years, 4 years now, the past few years, as I've done embarked on my change and where I am now, my eating has changed quite a bit over those few years as well, to where I definitely am consuming less calories overall than I used to, but I'm consuming them fairly consistently throughout the day. Like, I don't like big meals other than on the weekends. If I have a big hearty brunch, I do like that. But it throws off the rest of my schedule for the day, because then I'm not really hungry until 4 or 5 o'clock. And then that's close enough to dinner that it's like, well, do I really want to eat something now? Do I want to push it a little bit? My weekends kind of are funny if I don't eat according to a schedule that allows for like a fairly hearty brunch, a snack at an appropriate time, and then a nice little gap to dinner.
I wonder if there's any studies on this, because like I feel the same way. It's like the problem isn't like how much I'm eating, how many times I'm eating during the day. It's like how much am I eating, like the 2 times that I want to eat during the day. Because like I'm a similar way, in that even before taking this medicine, I was like 2 meals a day is pretty good. That's where I'm looking to eat, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I do really like 2 good solid meals and then a small period of a snack in between, but it has to be at just the right time. And that snack is minimal. That's a handful of peanut butter filled pretzels or something. Just enough to not have hunger pangs in between meal 1 and meal 2.
The problem with that, one of the problems with that, is that my kids want to eat like 4 times a day, because they're young,
yeah,
and they have that young metabolism, and
it's actually hilarious. So, my son, if you don't force him and make him pay attention to time on the weekends, he is notorious for remembering breakfast around lunchtime and then remembering that he hasn't eaten lunch around dinner time.
Nice.
It's just it's so random sometimes.
Well, I was gonna say my kids will also. I was gonna say they will, if they are doing something, and I'm like, hey, it's time to get a meal. They'll be there doing the thing they're doing, but they'll be hungry, but they won't stop to actually eat food or say, oh, hey, I'm hungry. Can we have whatever meal now? So
Yeah, I would describe him the same way because a lot of times on weekends, because we stagger errands and move things around to try to not have to take him out and about everywhere. Um, it's not uncommon for workouts and a couple of errands to overlap enough where we just don't mention food. And so if he doesn't come up and say that he's hungry, then we'll let him continue to be hungry and do what he's doing, and then he'll eventually get hungry enough that it's dinner time. But like we don't go say, hey, it's lunchtime, it's time to eat. We do wait for him to make mention that he needs something.
yeah, I ask my kids if they're hungry when I need them to eat, and they usually are. And I usually am like doing this thing because I'm trying to like plan this in the day so that when it's time, like if we're gonna go out and go outside somewhere and do something whatever, I don't want them to be, oh, I'm hungry, and I was like, so it's work sometimes.
Yeah, it's I think if we went out and did things more often on the weekends, it's not that we don't get out and do things, it's that we tend to do them more early in the day or late in the day. And so it misses having to schedule any kind of eating to be around it. Like I don't know, I guess it's just an odd habit that we kind of formed out of the sake of just ease of not having to worry about it.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you what remote pilot is.
Yeah, so on the business side of things, the photography, the video production stuff, I finally decided I would quit procrastinating and take the exam to be able to offer commercial services with a drone. And technically, there's no differentiation between like a quadcopter or a remote plane as a drone. So any small unmanned aircraft under 55 pounds, I am officially licensed to fly commercially. And so because there's no distinction, it's listed as remote pilot that you actually get certification through the FAA and everything as under the airman registry as a remote pilot. Like that's what it is. And I just thought it was funny. Like what it means in practice is I can fly unmanned aircraft under 55 pounds. Which for me personally is a quadcopter with a camera,
Yeah, I was going to say 55 pounds is pretty heavy.
It is. And I was surprised that they make no differentiation. Like I had to actually learn about all the different airspaces, how to read the charts and everything else. Like I was surprised at how much I had to understand in order to just fly, in my case, a DJI drone around. But yeah, I took care of actually making it all official, passing the exam. I have my temporary certificate with the official one being mailed. So the temporary one is valid for 120 days. And I am, at this point, technically classified as a remote pilot. And I can offer commercial photo and video services with a small unmanned aircraft.
Very cool. Very cool.
I figured it was worth going ahead and just doing. I had been putting off doing it because I just didn't want to pay the fee and go take the test. Like that's kind of what it came down to, right? Like it's not that I was already aware of the regulations. I was aware of all the other stuff. I've been playing around with it under the recreational exception anyway. So it's not like I didn't know the concepts. I was procrastinating. And so because I was sick, it's like, well, I'm not going to do a whole lot, but I can take practice exams while I'm sick, and I can just go ahead and go through a bunch of them and feel comfortable with it and then schedule the test and get it done. And so over the 3 weeks that I was dealing with the pneumonia and everything, that's what I did. So I felt semi-productive at least.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So were you out of work for 3 weeks?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I officially was back available last week, and then kind of caught up on just communications and everything else, and actually started doing stuff again this week.
Nice.
That was a pretty long pre-flight, to be honest.
It was.
Like a pre-flight that could be a show. I do want to. I've got to at least mention one of the other two. Like
the IVF. I think we should talk about.
Yeah, and I have so many thoughts, and I don't know what my thoughts are, which makes it that much more difficult. But I loved the headline for this article. Hold on, I got to pull it up. I got to read it verbatim because that's what it made me laugh, and it made me laugh in the most positive way, and it encapsulates everything you need to know about how stupid this is in the headline. And so, Vanity Fair published an article with the headline of, quote, Tommy Tuberville, village idiot, applauds Alabama IVF ruling before finding out he has no idea what it actually does. And I mean, the headline itself, it's accurate 100%. It tells you everything you need to know about how stupid the story is. But I do want to break away from just laughing so much at the absurdity of it all to focus on what the ruling is and what it actually means, because it is problematic across the board. And that is that the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that all embryos have protected status as unborn children, whether they're in the womb or not, basically, is what it comes down to. We can go back and look at the phrasing. I probably have something slightly off. But what it comes down to is in vitro fertilization now, as a result of the procedure, if you were to discard a unviable embryo for whatever reason, could be potentially criminally charged for, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but it's like inadvertent criminal charges for child death or minor death. That part I'd have to go back and look at the article. I know the article cites it. But it's so absolutely stupid that you can't help but recognize the ruling as being nothing more than a complete disregard for science and understanding what assisting people in having children actually means, and is purely an attack on any level of decision making involving a woman's right to have any control or autonomy over anything to do with the reproductive process. Just full stop. And it's absurd. And I have all these thoughts that are very incoherent, and I won't continue to ramble because it will get lost in the rant that I will eventually get to. But it is just so absolutely asinine that even same day, Saturday Night Live made fun of it, and The Daily Show mentioned it. Like, it's when you rule against something or rule on something, and every available comedy show picks it up within 24 hours, you fucked up.
Oh, yeah. It's, on top of that, it's like the result is going to be that IVF clinics are going to close.
Yeah.
They're stopped.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. UAB already suspended all IVF functions because of fears for criminal prosecution for both physicians and clients.
Yeah. What are they going to do about the frozen children that they have there? I mean, should we not have a law about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Or can I put my children in the freezer indefinitely?
I mean, I don't understand. I struggle so much with the pro-life argument and how that is applied to so many different things and is taken at face value from a legal, argumentative standpoint And all of the actions of any agency in practice for actually what they're doing, it's purely quote unquote pro-life to make the argument so that you have to protect an unborn child, and then fuck you from that point forward. And I don't understand how you cannot see that as any person paying attention to these rulings and the actions of these agencies and groups and lobbyists and everything else across the board. I just don't get how you can't see through that smokescreen. And I know that actually the answer for it is evangelical Christians. Like, yeah, they fucked it up because they're arguing about from a pro-life standpoint that is talking about this basis in the Bible Belt that is going to support a pro-life decision without understanding what the fuck that means. Like, obviously, I've used more fucks than I normally do as we record. Like, this is just such a stupid thing. If you're really pro-life, feed the kids who are hungry. Make sure they have health care. Let's start there. And if you actually pull that shit off and don't fuck it up, fine. Let's talk about embryos. But until you do A, you better not even touch B. And that's the part I just cannot get past. How can you argue anything pro-life if you're not even taking care of kids who need assistance right now?
Exactly. If you are not pro-life, if your aim is to not end poverty, you are not pro. You are not tough on crime if the goal is to not end poverty, because poverty is what causes crime. For the most part, poverty is what, so
social inequalities,
sources.
Like I agree. I mean, poverty is the key thing. I mean, that is absolutely what we measure and statistically can prove over and over and over again its influence on crime and everything else. But social inequality is the heart of the problem.
Yes.
A lack of access to health care, a lack of access to education, a lack of access to child care, a lack of access to food, a lack of access to housing, a lack of access to an actual viable wage to afford to pay for groceries. Just recently, I saw an article talking about Kellogg's leaning into the fact that people are strapped for cash and can't afford to do more than just eat cereal for dinner. And instead of trying to fix that core fundamental problem and have a nutritious dinner for everybody, even if it tastes like cardboard, you have a cereal company leaning into the marketing that cereal can be for dinner too, because it's all that they can afford. All of these behaviors tell me that if you argue pro-life, you're full of shit and you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
I might feel a little bit strongly about this one.
I will say it is consistent with medical abortion, but we know that that's about social inequality.
Yeah,
as you said, it's about controlling women. This is so I think somebody on the Alabama, or the folks on the Alabama Supreme Court just thought, oh yeah, here let's be consistent with our other position on what we do with other fertilized embryos or fertilized eggs, and while I applaud the consistency here, it's all stupid.
I think because I don't want to make it all negative in a rant, even though I love a good rant, I do want to.
You can.
I know, but I do want to mention that I think this particular ruling might be a positive. We will see. Time will tell. But there are enough legislators who recognize the danger of this ruling and kind of the absurdity of it from a practical standpoint of what IVF treatments actually are and what it means for people trying to have kids, that maybe we'll get lucky and there will be some legislative action that at least enshrines these types of treatments into permissible federal regulations instead of letting the states have this kind of autonomy over decision making. I'm not overly hopeful because that requires a functioning government, which we've talked about plenty of times. We currently do not have something that resembles a proper functioning government. But I do have hope because of the grumblings. I think that's where that is my positive take on it, is that I've seen enough people, including in the conservative parties, conservative party, since we only have two, that are unhappy with the ramifications of this ruling, that maybe we will see something happen for a change.
It's funny. I have a negative spin for your positive take, and that is that I think there are enough affluent white folks that want babies that can't have them naturally that this will get reversed.
I agree. I mean, I absolutely agree. And that will probably...
Because they need those clinics to open.
That'll probably, unfortunately, be the impetus, but it will still achieve the result that I think is beneficial. So as much as I hate the train of thought there, if we get to a point where Alabama is looked at with a slap on the wrist and saying, no, you fucked up, I'm okay with it, regardless of which path it takes.
Yeah, fair. Sometimes the ends do justify the means. We have a number of different ways set up for you to get in touch with us to provide feedback, ask questions, or just comment in about something we've discussed.
You can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram at untitled_hosts, or shoot an email over to untitled.hosts@gmail.com.
Or get in touch directly with Jesse at jthart.com, or get in touch with me, John, via telepathy.
If you would like to support our work or are interested in listening to our new after show feed, head over to patreon.com/theUntitledPodcast and take a look at the options we have set up.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you've enjoyed the show.
And we hope to connect with more of you as we continue this journey.
That's a wrap.